Simon and I actually just went out there and bought a property each in our self-managed super funds, and they're not in the markets that everybody's talking about. It wasn't in Brisbane, it wasn't in Perth, it wasn't there in Adelaide. It was actually down there in this video, we show you the exact properties that we bought, what we paid for them, what they're going to rent for, the strategy and the thinking behind it, how we identified the particular suburbs and the markets that we went for, and what we believe could be coming off the back of that. But on top of that, like always, we also went super deep into our personal investment philosophies, our plans for the future. So I hope you really enjoy this one. Come and take a listen, and let's get into it.
It was all a dream. Baby, I'm dreaming.
Well, congratulations. We're both back in the game. We've just both recently bought properties in our self-managed super fund. So tell me a little bit about yours. Like, why did you buy it? What did you buy? What did you pay for it? What's the strategy for this property longer term?
It's really exciting to be back on the property ladder and taking action. It's been a bit of a hiatus for myself. I maxed out my servicing because I went really hard around COVID time, and so I've been sitting on the sidelines since 2021 without being able to actually add to my property portfolio. So in the background, I've been, doing some things to get myself set up. Me and my wife had, combined somewhere between about $150,000 to $160,000 in super, and that just wasn't going to cut it for us to start investing in our super funds. But fortunately, we made a pretty large profit from the sale of an investment property last year in 2025, and sitting down with my accountants and financial advisors, we were looking at some tax minimization strategies, and my accountant recommended that we actually distribute some of the profits from the sale of that to our super fund to build it up a little bit. And I am just leaning on my team of advisors and following their advice. They know a lot more about this space than I do. So we work together as a team, my accountants, my financial advisors, my mortgage broker, to just get everything set up and get everything ready to rock and roll, which, to my regret, took way too long. Like, I was sitting on the fence, just doing some research for way too long. Like, I probably could have done something in like September of 2025, but I stuffed around and I didn't have everything set up and ready to go until January 2026. And so over that period of time, I'm watching the market change. Like, I'm watching the market go up, and we're buying properties for clients, and I'm seeing these properties change. Like, from September last year to when I had to buy, properties went up $50,000 to $100,000 in the area that I was looking at. So I was really motivated and eager to get stuck in. And so, long story short, we picked up a great property in a suburb called Whittington down in Geelong. So this is a tiny little suburb just next to East Geelong, right near the racecourse. And I picked up a property, 6 Monash Court in Whittington, which was an off-market listing through the relationships that we have with the top performing agents down there. The vendors didn't want to pay the marketing fees. They didn't want to have open for inspections and people coming through their property every single day. So they chose to sell it off market. And as we know, these can be great deals. And so we began the negotiations, managed to pick up this property for $695,000. And on all accounts, based on what we've been seeing in the market, if that property was listed online, they would have been able to get low sevens for that, like 710, 720 maybe even for that property. So I feel as though I got a below market value deal. And to me, it just ticked all the boxes. It was a low set brick and tile house in a nice quiet cul-de-sac in a lovely pocket of the suburb, talking to locals from the area. On all accounts, this little pocket that I've purchased in is like the nicest area of Whittington, which is really nice to know that a lot of my neighbours are elderly owner-occupiers, and there is a bit of a trend with young people moving in due to the affordability, the employment opportunities. And so, yeah, we picked it up for $695, 737 square metre block of land, 3 bedroom, 2 bathroom, 2 car, slightly odd shaped block, which was sort of the one negative, in my opinion, is the fact that it wasn't just a stock standard rectangular block, but this was the price that I paid to be in the nice, quiet, family-friendly cul-de-sac as well. So after doing a bunch of research last year with you and Tim, it became glaringly obvious that this was the market that I was ready to invest in. And I think it'd be good for you to sort of break down what you did with our colleague Tim in the end of 2025 that sort of really kicked both of us into gear to take action and jump in.
Yeah, there's been two big things that we've done recently. So, not last year, but the year before, I worked with a friend of mine who's a coder that's been living in London, and he was able to look at the 19 biggest markets in the country, and then let's call it Sydney, Newcastle, Wollongong, Central Coast, Brisbane, Goldie, Sunny Coast, etc. And he was able to put every suburb, as well as a whole bunch of key performance indicators for every suburb into this sheet. And that's when we started to go, what's up with Victoria? And I actually got him to redo the data 3 times because I couldn't believe how good it looked relative to what I'd been hearing in the media. But then in December last year, Tim and I, one of our colleagues, he was a data analyst, sort of sat down for a good 100 odd hours, like mainly his time, but me sort of saying, this is what I want. We looked at the 20 biggest markets in the country, and it just became extremely obvious that Melbourne, Mornington Peninsula, Bendigo, Ballarat and Geelong just look phenomenally underpriced. But what was interesting about Geelong is I know Goldie, Sunny Coast well. 7-8 years ago, we could buy houses for 600k that are now worth 1.2 to 1.5 mil. I know Newcastle and Wollongong really well because we grew up there and we actually bought a lot of property there for clients sort of 10, 11 years ago. And I know again that they'd gone from 600k to sort of 1.4 mil. Mornington Peninsula has suburbs that are 800k and it has suburbs that are $8 million. And that's expensive too. And then Geelong is really the only beachside community within an hour of a CBD on the east coast of Australia that is half the price of everywhere else. So you and I love Melbourne, but we both chose to buy Geelong because the statistics look phenomenal.
And I guess to me as well, and I'm just going to be completely honest, like there was an emotional aspect to my decision because like on paper, Southeast Melbourne, like Frankston down to Mornington was crazy undervalued and I was in a position to buy there. And then some of the suburbs in Melbourne that we buy in for clients as well looked freaking awesome and cheaper than where I bought as well. But I'm a surfer and I love the water and, you know, there is this emotional appeal to owning properties close to the water.
Within 25 minutes of Bells Beach, it's not a bad place to be.
Exactly. And so, you know, obviously on paper it looked great, but then there was this little bit inside of me that was like, well, you know, comparing option A versus option B, I just chose option B being Geelong because I like the fact that it is a little bit closer to the water. And you know, I feel as though if it was 100% just driven by emotion, that's a bad call. But I like my property investments to be in alignment with my goals, to be in alignment with the fundamentals. But I also want it to be in alignment with my lifestyle and values because I now feel good about owning a property in Geelong and I'm excited to share this information. So it's an interesting concept that, you know, most people probably shouldn't take into consideration. I know you don't, but for me, I kind of do take that little bit of peace in knowing that, like, you know, this is a community where I could see myself living in worst case scenario.
You've been down there in the middle of winter, bro.
Yeah, true that.
No, I was down there for a couple of weeks, actually 3 weeks in 2023. So we did a week in Geelong, 2 weeks at Bells Beach. And I fell in love, but it was summertime. It was beautiful. It was just, the waves were pumping. I really enjoyed it. There's this pier down in Geelong, and it's got a Ferris wheel, it's got heaps of cool cafes, restaurants and bars. It's got this beautiful waterfront and it's sort of it looks like nothing's changed in 100 years. Imagine walking down into Bondi Beach with all the sandstone and the old buildings, but no one was there. And there's 3 meter diving boards, 1 meter diving boards, 10 meter things to jump off. And me and the kids just
had a
ball there. Hey, it was awesome. And that's when I fell in love with the place. But then the data is the reason why I just bought it.
Well, that's right. So tell us a little bit more about the property that you picked up because it happened at an interesting time at the very end of last year, right?
Yeah, so the place that I bought was 36 Coppard Roads in Newcomb. I actually paid $1.2 million for this one. So Newcomb is a suburb, getting a little bit datery here. where the average house price right now, according to H-Tag, is about 640K on the beach. That's absolutely wild, but you can't get anything decent there for under 750 really, unless you're a tradie and you can really do some work. In the last 12 months, it's gone up 11%, so it's on the rise, as we know. But in the last 3 years, it's done 3%, so 1% per annum. In the last 7 years, it's done only 42%. So when I look at that 7-year growth rate, this was the main reason I bought there. I know that in the last 18 years, Geelong has done 270%, but in the last 7 years, it's only done 42%, versus Sunny Coast Goldie's 100%, Brisbane, Perth, Adelaide's 100% in the same period. And so I just like it statistically. Like, vacancy rates are low. It's a blue collar area within 6 minutes to the CBD of Geelong, which is a city of 320,000 people. So that's sort of the thinking behind why I bought it. And we'll talk about more of those green flags in a moment in terms of like what we actually look for when we're buying.
And sorry to interrupt, but just to talk about those longer term averages as well, like in Geelong's previous growth cycle, which began around 2007, if you look at from 2007 to 2025, the average house in Geelong increased by about 271% according to H-Tag. But in the last 10 years, the average property only went up by 78%. And so if you take that 78% off 271%, you're getting about 191% growth from 2007 to 2015-16.
Yeah.
And so that, on paper, based on the research that Tim did, was sort of the strongest performing market over that period of time in the country.
You're so right, because I look at the 10-year data set for Geelong and, you know, it did 78%, exactly what you said. But in the last 7 years, it only did 31%. So it's effectively saying to me that, like,
those last few years.
Yeah, like 40-50% of it was between 2015 and 16, which are in the long-term data set. But in the last 7, it's taken a bath. And I know that's a bit technical, but welcome to the Pumped On Property Show.
And there's so many reasons why. Like, if you've got a market that's gone up by over 150% in less than 10 years, there's going to be fatigue. You know, you look at some areas of Brisbane. Like, I was talking to a client the other day whom we bought a property for about $350,000 in 2016. And now that property is worth $1.1 million.
Yeah, wow.
So, you know, it's a different reality to sort of compare what it once was to where it is right now. Not that these things aren't going to continue, but we're just looking for the most undervalued opportunities.
Yeah, I'm looking for the next Perth, the next Brisbane, the next Adelaide, the next Sunny Coast, the next Goldie. I'm not looking to buy at the top of a market when someone has made 180% in the last 5 years. And so for my property, I've gone for a bit more of a risky strategy personally. I'm taking a punt. So mine's a 4,000 square metre piece of land, right, 500 metres to the beach, right?
A punt.
A punt, yeah. I'm not really having a punt. I'm having a punt on future value. So I know I nailed the timing. I know I nailed the land size, the location, the suburb, and all of the key performance indicators that matter. But the punt that I took was on spending more. But, you know, to get a 600 square metre piece of land down there is still 750K, 800K for this home on it. So I got 3,400 square metres of land for a fraction of its true value. So I bought it in my super fund. I'm 40 years of age today, and I can be retired at 67 and a half, or I can hit preservation age or whatever they call it, which sounds so bad, at 60 if I don't want to work again. Talking to
Put
Matt,
yourself in an incubator or something like that.
Like, do I just lock
Gonna
up
become
next...
Walt Disney.
Exactly, like I'm on ice, baby. But effectively, I took the punt on worst case scenario in my super. I've just got a beautiful big block that's in the future Sunny Coast, you know, Wollongong, whatever it is, of Melbourne. And at that time, I completely renovate the home. I build a really nice pool, a tennis court, and I sell it to someone, because there'll be none of these left in 20 years' time down the beach there. Everything will be cut up, to someone that really wants something special that doesn't exist. Because this is like, there's 2 streets that have these properties, and this is one of them. That's it not working out. And I believe over that 20-year period, it will go from 1.2 to $2.4 million, absolutely minimum, but I expect it to do significantly better than that based on history. The second option is one street across has already been rezoned, and someone with the exact same block and the exact same everything just put 12 townhouses on theirs. But speaking to the strategic planners at the council, I think like the highest and best use of my site will be more like 16 to 20 townhouses on it. So obviously I can't do that in super, but what I can do, talking to my financial advisor, is sell the property in 20 years' time from my super back to myself, and then I can develop it at that time if I want to do that. So that's sort of plan B. Plan A is I've just bought the bottom of the market and I'll just ride it out. But ultimately what both of those options give me, and the reason I did it strategically, is according to Matt, our financial advisor, I can have about $1.9 million, and so can my wife, in super. And the day we retire, we can sell those assets and end up with a great chunk of cash in the bank. And that's what I'm doing it for. Because I don't want to own a $2 or $3 million property in 20 years' time, give me $1,000 a week in rent. I want $3 million cash in the bank so that I can find a better use for that money or live off that money.
Yeah, and this is a very long-term strategy as well. There's a huge difference between buying properties in self-managed super fund versus personal names or trust accounts. And so, you know, it's long-term. You're talking 20, 30 plus years.
Yeah.
And I'm looking at a 30-year plan with this as well. And so my ideal scenario, and there's so many external factors that are going to influence this strategy, but that's investing. You know, there's a lot out of my control. But hopefully I can hold this property that, let's call it $700,000 rounded up. And, you know, if history repeats, I would like to sell the property for about $1.4 to $1.5 million at some point in the next 8 to 12 years.
Yeah.
Ideally 10 years, but if it comes sooner, happy days.
Yeah.
And so
as soon as it's doubled, you'll get out. Is that your marker?
yeah, that'll be my marker. And so unless at that point in time, you know, there's still upside potential, or if it's taking longer than I anticipated, that's cool. I'm happy to be patient. But I'd love to be able to try, best case scenario, sell that one property. And because I put down a 20% deposit on that property, you know, I'm freezing my debt based on what it's worth today, you know, which is about $550,000 worth of debt in 2026.
Yeah.
But then if I can sell that for 1.4, 1.5, pay my taxes, walk away with a huge chunk of cash available in my super fund, I will hopefully at that point be able to find a really undervalued market, the Geelong of 2035.
Yeah.
And you know,
split it into 2 or 3, right?
Go buy 2 or 3, like maximize the returns without doing anything unsafe.
Love that.
And then
so you can't save the money in super as quickly as you can make it through leveraged property, right? So you're like, you and Taylor could theoretically put in 60 grand a year, which is a lot of money.
That's a lot of money.
But financially, who can do that? No one. Most Aussies can't. So it's like you get this property and you'll continue to contribute part of your wage. You might salary sacrifice a bit extra, but this property is going to do a lot of the heavy lifting to get you to that point. By the time you're a tiny bit older than me, where it's like, cool, I've gone from 200k to 600 grand in my super fund now after you paid out all the stuff, and that's 3 deposits now.
Exactly.
For 3 750k properties.
Now, obviously, in 2035, I'm not going to be able to buy a property in a great market for 700 grand. That's 100% certain. So my belief is that to put down a 20-30% deposit at that point in time, we may be looking at $1 to $1.2 million properties anyway. Mm-hmm. But the whole idea is to find the undervalued market, be able to spread that into at least 2 properties, and then hopefully rinse and repeat that. So then for the next 10 years, best case scenario, doubling the money of those 2 properties. So let's say I go buy 2 at 1.2, you know, it's $2.4 million worth of property. Double that becomes $4.8 million worth of property by 2045.
And at that point, you're still only in your
55.
50s.
Yeah, 53. And so then I've got the 2 properties that have doubled. I sell, pay all of my taxes. You know, it's going to cost me money to hold these properties as well. I'm anticipating about $15,000 to $20,000 per year, but my contributions are going to be $30,000 to $60,000 every single year
Yeah.
in the coming years anyway. So it's like still at a net positive.
Yep.
And then
And
I'll
then rents will go up and you'll offset some of that money and the position won't be as tough as it is now. Because
Exactly.
right now is the worst it should ever look.
Absolutely, absolutely. And so we'll then sell those two and then rinse and repeat, find the most undervalued market in, say, what year are we at now? 2045. So 20 years from now, and then go and invest into ideally 4 properties. So 1 into 2, 2 into 4. 4, hold for 10 years until me and Taylor are ready to retire, and then sell the 4 properties. Same as you, like I don't want to be holding those properties in super at preservation age. I want to be, I don't think the rental yield is going to be acceptable for me personally at that point in my life.
You don't want a 2% net return on $4 million. You want to get 7 to 11% a year on $4 million.
But the numbers look incredible if it all comes together. But obviously there's going to be changes over the next 30 years that I can't forecast, I can't predict. So you just got to roll with the punches, take advantage of opportunities when you see them, and have that really long-term approach. But just making this one decision, and even if I were just to buy and hold this property for the next 30 years,
you're set in retirement.
All me and my wife have to do, like base case scenarios, pay off the debt on our home, hold that property for 30 years, sell it, and we're sweet. Like there is, like, I know that's not enough for me. I want more, but still, it just I told you when it all came together, I'm just like, man, like I just feel this huge weight off my shoulders. It's like it's all taken care of.
Because super, as I now see it, is actually a plan B. Like super, there's your job or your business, and then there's your investments, whether it's property, gold, silver, stocks, crypto, whatever your poison is, like, you know, that's the thing that you drink and that's the thing that you obsess about. And then it's like super for me is something that I think most of us don't actually think about. I never had really thought about it. At age 37, I probably had 60 grand in my super. It wasn't, honestly, and that's bad to say because by that point I'd bought 15 odd properties. I just hadn't thought about it because I was focused on kids, business, my properties outside of super. But then I started to get better ideas of better accountants and financial advisors, and I started to learn about it, and I'm just like, this is insane. Because I can't touch it, my thinking goes from 5 to 7 years to 30 years, 20 years. And so it's just like, well, this is a business. If nothing else in my life works out, that is going to be safe, protected, and good down the line. And we saw one of our grandmas not end up with any property at all, and how hard that was for her. And one of them just bought one principal place of residence at DY on the Northern Beaches. And the difference in their quality of retirement and the difference in their quality of care when they needed it at the end of their lives was just yin and yang. And so I love that you're sleeping better because it's like, cool, you did the thing. You took the step, you got uncomfortable. Yeah, my super took 3 to 4 months to set up as well.
Yeah.
Like it took way longer. It was
a pretty painful process, to be honest. Thank God for Matt and Jolene, though.
Yeah, they were phenomenal.
They really made my life a lot easier.
So why for you this particular part of Australia right now, and in any investment you do with everything that you've learned in the last 10 years, what are the green flags that you look for personally? Like what is ideal property for you and what does it have to tick to achieve those goals?
Yeah, so number one, big markets. So major metro, major regional. For me, it's Southeast Queensland, Sydney, 200 k's north-southwest.
Yeah.
And it's Melbourne, Mornington, Geelong, Bendigo, Ballarat.
Yeah.
You know, I don't think personally
the big East Coast markets.
I'll ever touch anywhere else outside of those markets.
I wouldn't have minded a little bit of Perth in 2020.
Happy to let it go.
I might go grab that one next time in 15 years when it has another run. I might just get it for that 3 years to double my money, just for a punt for fun.
I'm sure we will. So it was the big markets, and that was something that was important. And then, you know, buying as close to the city that you can afford in a good quality suburb, or as close to the beach that you can afford as well. And so those big rocks were ticked, and then the other one is obviously buying a house. So buying a house on land. So all of those big rocks have been ticked, which is going to result in me being able to generate, you know, if history repeats, a 5 to 6% compound growth rate for the period of time that I hold that property. But for me, I wanted to add some little rocks in there as well. And so for me, that was like looking at a really undervalued suburb within there. And this is kind of, you know, an old public housing suburb as well. So back in the 80s and 90s, lots of public housing, lots of social housing, things like that. So it's had this stigma. And that's the same as parts of Wollongong, you think, like Corrimal, Bulli, Bellambi, Port Kembla, and then you look up to the Central Coast as well, San Remo, some of the suburbs around there as well. Like, you know, these areas that are gorgeous and in the best locations, but have just been, you know, areas of low socioeconomic demographics. And then same for the Sunshine Coast, like Kawana, Curramundi. These areas are really dodgy. You think about the Gold Coast, Palm Beach, you know, these...
Miami, all those spots.
All of these areas were, at one point in the past, like low socioeconomic demographic, dodgy areas, but gentrified because of, you know, where they're located and the natural beauty associated with it. So that was obviously a big rock, the stigma that's still attached to it because of the past. But you're seeing the tide change. Like a lot of the older people are downsizing or moving out or moving into retirement homes, and you've got an influx of young Australians that want the lifestyle and need that affordability plus the access to good jobs, because you can jump on the train from Geelong and you'll be in at Flinders Street Station in the middle of in the middle of Melbourne within an hour.
We looked at it yesterday for a client, and the express train in the morning's 47 minutes. Like
Far out.
It's way closer than Newcastle, Wollongong, Sunny Coast or Gold Coast are to get into their CBD point. And that's interesting. Like, just before we talk about some more of these green flags, talk Sunny Coast, right? Because Sunny Coast has been the top performing market out of the 20 biggest in Australia in the last 10 and 7 years. Like, it's cranked. Let's talk Curramundi, which at the time was the suburb that you and Tay could afford, which has the most beautiful actual beach out of anywhere until you get to Sunshine, in my perspective. Like, there's no other lake like this on the whole coast.
No.
Cranking waves, and it's just close to everything.
Yeah.
How much did you pay roughly for your house back in, what was it?
That was $560 in 2020, May.
$560. You've spent 300K?
300 grand.
And what would it be roughly worth today?
My mate, who's a real estate agent, came around recently and he's like, man, I could get you 1.4 for this.
1.4. And if you hadn't have renovated it, it would still be worth over $1 million.
Yeah. So the
So it's
cash
like
that
the
I've
300K
spent
has got you
hasn't really
back.
added much. Yeah, it got me my money back. It hasn't really added too much to it. But
The lifestyle.
I did owner-occupied shit. You know,
Yeah.
it wasn't investment. I'm like high spec, like walking into Reese Plumbing
stunning.
and choosing whatever the hell we want. You know, like we didn't put any.
But every dollar
budgets
you
on
put in,
anything.
you got that dollar back, which is the important thing to do for a home.
Yep. And like if I was a tradie, I probably would have been able to make way more. But it was at a time where trade costs were going up so much that it just was what it was.
You know, incomes aren't dissimilar between Sunny Coast and Geelong. Population sizes aren't dissimilar either. I think they're 320,000. I don't know how many we are up here.
350 including Noosa.
You know, Sunny Coast, when I moved up 20 years ago and even 10 years ago, was so sleepy and so quiet. And then prices started to run and people move in with money, and those people just expect better cafes, better restaurants, all of the stuff that can't exist because it's not good enough. That's a 7 out of 10 disappears, and like 10 out of 10 places come in. Otherwise, they just can't exist.
Look at Moffat Beach in the last 10 years, how much that's
Insane.
changed. Like you had your little corner store and, you know, a crappy old coffee shop and the fish and chip shop. And now it's full of like boho, boutique, beautiful cafes, bars, you know, art stores, all of that really cool stuff.
And prices there have, which is the Geelong of the Sunny Coast, have gone literally from 7, 8. I mean, I bought a house at Moffat Beach in 2013 for $411,000 or $419,000, and it was on 1,200 square meters of land, 5 rooftops from the beach. And that place today with a knockdown house on it or a duplex, which you could have done, would be, both sides of the duplex would be 2.5 minimum.
Yeah, in that spot.
I walked away because I was afraid of it. Another lesson. Like,
That's cool. But to get back to the green flags, for me, like I'm not looking for reasons to buy the property necessarily. Like the green flags are important, but I'm looking at reasons why not to buy it. So I'm really ruling out any main roads or any noisy, busy areas, thoroughfares, things like that, because it just reduces the owner-occupier appeal, and then that's going to, keep a cap on capital growth rates, versus buying in a nice, quiet cul-de-sac where every other house in the street is owner-occupied. So everybody's maintaining their properties really well and, renovating them, looking after them. And as you drive into there, it just feels better. And I feel as though that, the cul-de-sac that I bought on versus the street that it fronts on, I should be able to generate an extra 0.5% of capital growth compared to that other street throughout the whole period of time that I hold that property. And it doesn't sound like much, 0.5%, but you compound that over 10, 20, 30 years.
Could be a 300k difference. Like 50 grand difference today, stretched out in 15 years will be 300k between one street and the other.
Exactly. So getting into those areas, but then close proximity, like jump in a car, drive 5 minutes, you've got everything.
Yeah.
Central business district of Geelong, the waterfront down in Geelong, hospitals, universities, TAFEs. TAFE is literally just around the corner. Golf courses, racetrack, everything is within about a 5-minute drive of this. 20-minute drive, you can get to the Queenscliff ferry to go over to the Mornington Peninsula. 15-minute drive, you can get up to the where the Spirit of Tasmania comes into Geelong as well. 20-minute drive, you're down on the Surf Coast, down in Torquay as well. So it was just really well located, and even though it's a quiet little street, it's only a few corners away from a, not a highway, but a main road that kind of connects Geelong to Torquay as well. So it's just really efficient and really well located, that particular block and that particular pocket. But then there was, no bushfire overlays, no flooding overlays, no public housing in the street. Those things were really important to me as well, and it ticked every single one of those boxes. So when it came up, they were the first things that we checked because we'd already done the big rocks in terms of strategy. Now it's just identifying the right property and getting all of those little rocks. And then the fact that it was off market, I could just negotiate one-on-one with the agent, really help get that below market value deal. And the beautiful thing is, the vacancy rates in this area, I looked up on SQM just yesterday in preparation for this video, and the postcode, which includes Whittington, Thompson, Newcomb, where you've bought, and East Geelong, according to SQM, it was a 0.7 vacancy rate.
Yeah, so chronically undersupplied, which takes some of the pressure off your holding, right?
Well, it's expected to rent for $550 per week.
Wow, that's a great return.
Yeah, so you factor in that $27,500 per year with a couple of weeks of vacancy. It's only going to cost me like $8,000 post-tax to hold this property in the super fund.
What I think's cool about everything you just said, and I completely agree, is for individual properties, the strategy changes. So, for example, on my block, I like cul-de-sacs as well.
I like warm socks.
I do as well. The house that we grew up in, our first house in Sydney, was at a dead-end street, and then the second one was a cul-de-sac. So I've just got a tendency to want quieter streets. But I've also seen in Sydney, for example, in the southern side, houses that were 400k versus 450. Now one of them's 1.8 and the other one's 1.2. So people prefer places that their kids can run out and not get hurt.
Oh man, it's a huge motivating factor.
That said, like, I'm 500 or so meters to the beach as well, but I deliberately chose a corner block, which I normally don't go for. And I don't mind them, but maybe 70% of people don't want them. The reason for that is if they rezone, I know that townhouses with street frontage sell for probably $100,000 to $200,000 more in the Gold Coast, Sunny Coast, Wollongong and Newcastle than they do hidden down a thing. And so I'm strategically making the choice and bending some of my rules for the type of property, because there was one other one that was about the same price that was infill versus the corner one, and I'm thinking 15 years from now what my ultimate buyer wants, and I'm putting myself in their perspective, even though that one was about 7 to 10 rooftops further away from the beach. So it's like, it's interesting how you make different decisions based on what you ultimately want from your investment strategy.
I love that so much, and can relate as well, because the way that I was thinking about this one is, like, it's not the best property in the suburb. It's certainly not the worst property in the suburb, but it's going to appeal to the demographics and the people that are moving to this area at the moment. And then you've got to think about the future and where that property is going to be. And it's hard to sort of forecast that because you never know what's going to happen. But at the end of the day, these are the little nuances that do impact the return and the type of development that you may be able to do. And
Yeah.
so, you know, moving forward with your self-managed super fund, like what are some of the things that you're excited about? Like, do you think this will be one and done for you?
Definitely not. But I am completely bankrupt in my super now. So it was a $1.2 million property. To get the loan done, I had put down $500,000 cash, which was completely every single dollar that I had in super. So I'm completely back to the same place that I'm always at to as an investor, which is beginning again.
Mm-hmm.
I can't use equity in super, and I don't want to sell this property until I know that the council's rezoned it at the very least, which might never happen. Mm-hmm. So this to me is a 20-year strategy. Me and Lisa are in a position through the business where we can contribute the full amount pretty much every year, which is about $60,000 to super. Because the reason I do that is my top end tax rate is so high for that money over the 190K mark. So I put some of that money in, and according to my financial advisor accountant, I'm only paying 15% on that. So it's just a strategic thing. The government wants me to be financially free and self-funded so that I'm not costing them anything in the future, and they're incentivizing me to do that at the moment by giving me a lower tax rate. And I'm like, cool, like for some of my money I'll do that, but I'll keep saving. I would have loved to, if it was a different property, I 100% would have rinsed Geelong, like I've rinsed Sunny Coast, Sydney, Central Coast, Gold Coast, Brisbane. But this is such a unicorn property that I think my next play is going to be 3-4 years from now when I've got another 200K sitting in there and I can comfortably just go and do it again.
And so how does this influence your journey to financial freedom? Because it's a huge shift following the conversations that you've had with your team of advisors from what you once wanted to do versus now what you're choosing to do.
The shift is the same that you felt. Like I just feel this deep peace. Like you can't take away something that someone owns in super unless you're the person that owns it and you stop paying the bank, and then the bank will just sell it. But super is just so outside of anything that is business or personal that it's just like so protected by the government that people can't touch it. So I like that safety of like that is that thing. I also love the fact that I've got my dream home now and I plan on staying in that home all the way through to my kids finish up there, and hopefully way longer than that. I have, those two things alone will completely set up me and my family forever. And then then it's like, okay, now that there's less pressure on the business, because I sort of own my home almost outright and I don't have a huge amount of debt on this super property. We also own the building that we're in for the business too, which isn't a great investment, but it's a really, really good place to do business. Now it's just a case of like, what fun do I want to have with everything that I've learned in the last 16 years? And that fun is, for me, keep saving some money. Like you, keep chipping away with the right investments. And the right investments for me outside of super don't look like this crazy punt thing that I'm trying to do for townhouses. I'm not a developer. I just don't like going through that journey of like fighting councils for 16 joints on a residential block. Some people love that fight. I now see myself saving a little bit of money over the next probably 5 years, the same as you. Now that I know that Melbourne, Mornington and Geelong is my focus, like Brisbane, Sunny Coast and Gold Coast were over the last 10 years, and like Sydney and Central Coast were in the 10 years before that, or the 6 years before, I will slowly accumulate assets that either a single income, set and forget that I can renovate before I sell, houses with the potential for a granny flat, or houses like you just done and I've done before with duplex or subdivision potential that I hold, do nothing with, and then clean them up once the market's doubled and get out of them both. But I think it's just pressure's off. Slow down, enjoy family life, get back to more holidays, get back to like resting, recovering, enjoying, knowing that I have financial peace again. and just enjoying the ride. But
I
what
love it,
about
man.
you? Like, where are you coming from with all of this strategically and for your family? Like, what's next post this decision in the next 5 years?
Well, I'm definitely not there yet. Like, I've got a significant amount of debt on my principal place of residence, a decent amount of debt on this self-managed super fund property. I've still got another 2 properties in Brisbane as well, one on the north side, one on the south side. So, I've got a really good foundation of assets that if I do choose to do nothing more, like I've exceeded my goals for the future.
Yeah.
But for me, the realization that I've had recently since having a son is that, like, the whole FIRE mentality, financial independence, retire early, is gone. Like, I have no desire to retire early. I just want to do meaningful, impactful work that I enjoy, and I want to have the freedom to do what I want. Like, this morning, surf was good. Ben and I text each other, hey, let's push back recording by an hour, let's go for a surf.
Yeah, and
That's-
it was good, and it set up all of this day.
Like, I don't need the financial freedom. I'm already free.
Yeah.
And so I don't have this, like, burning desire to get to $150,000 worth of passive income at 45 years of age. And if I don't achieve that, I'm not succeeding. It's like, I've just come to peace with the fact that, I've got a son and I'm going to have grandkids, hopefully. And I am now thinking so much longer than I ever have in the past. And for me, it's just all about lifestyle, freedom, choices, making smart decisions, like continuing to do the things that got me to where I am at 33. Because, like, the last 11 years have been an absolute grind. But I can start to see that, like, the decisions that I've made and the disciplined sacrifices that I've operated with are paying off. And so...
Four 8-hour days a week, Fridays off most weeks, take holidays when you want to, push back a recording session, like, that is freedom to me as well. Getting home at a reasonable time, like having your mornings like that. It's not necessarily Lambos or bigger houses or European holidays. It's actually quite simple for most of us what we really want. And what the biggest thing for me is I thought I had to achieve it to have it, but it's like once you've got it set up, then it's just digging into life. Like, you could work and I could work twice as much with the number of people that hit us up every week or every day. It's like we're choosing to, like, do less in our work with people that we love so that we can have this lifestyle completely outside of it. This is 30 hours a week of our time, or sometimes 50, 40, whatever the week ends up being. But the whole rest of the week is geared around the other values in our lives.
And that's the thing, and it's a really peaceful place to get to. But yeah, I guess for me, it's no longer about all of these must-haves. It's more about just, like, let's operate with grace. Let's surround ourselves with loved ones. Let's enjoy hobbies. Let's go see the beautiful world that we live in. And, why wait? Just try and figure out a way to make it happen sooner. And there is no reality that this exists without investing for me. Like, investing is the only reason, because I don't have the business. Like, I have to invest to get that freedom, and I have invested to get that freedom. So I will never stop investing. Like, I wasn't planning on investing in 2025 or 2026. I chose to because I studied the markets. We found an incredible opportunity.
Which we honestly didn't think 5 years ago we would have an opportunity for the largest city in Australia and two of the biggest regional quality markets in the country that have done over 200% the last 18 years to magically just fall in our lap, and having done 25% for the 7 years leading up to that point. I thought everything would be cooked by now. And there are places that I think are cooked, and some of my videos coming out soon are going to be very unpopular because, like, I'm just calling it what it is.
Yeah.
But I'm doing it like I did when we moved out of Sydney, Gold Coast, Sunny Coast. Like, you do it because it's like, I love that all of our clients made 100, 150%. Do I want my clients to be the dude paying someone else's 150% profit in 5 years? Like, I was going through every suburb in Brisbane, over 400 suburbs the other day to record a video. And I was looking at them, half of the suburbs that we bought, like, let's say Brisbane did 90, 100% in the last 5 years, 7 years, sorry. Some of these suburbs that we bought, some that we didn't buy, have averaged 180 to 280% now. And I'm like, that is 30 years worth of growth in 7. Like, I love Brisbane. I love this Olympic hype. I love the incomes. I love the infrastructure. I love the diversity. I love everywhere you look, something's being built. It is Sydney in 2000. Like, it is exploding right now. And people want to be up here for the weather because it's no longer a city of 1 million people that goes to sleep at 4 o'clock in the RV. Like, it's a thriving global city. But do you want to pay 150% more than you could have 5 years ago? I couldn't think of anything fucking worse, personally.
And the interesting thing is when you look at the data that we've got access to, like, it's still going to keep going up. You know, like, it should keep going up in the years to come as well. It may not look like what it was in the past, but it still goes up. So an analogy here is like you think about Sydney in 2018-19. Looked overcooked, overvalued, too expensive. Why would you buy there? It's not going to perform as well as elsewhere. And the numbers are, you know, part and parcel. Like, you look at the 7-year growth rates of Brisbane, Sunshine Coast, Gold Coast, compare that to Sydney, Newcastle, Wollongong, completely different. But those markets are still up 40 to 60% over the last 7 years.
Which you'd be so happy with. Imagine getting that.
Yeah, exactly. On a $1.2 million property, it's a huge return on investment. So there's this, you know, false sense of belief that, like, oh, I'm still generating returns. But for me, it's the opportunity cost of missing out on that next boom town, that next boom market.
Yeah. I love it, man. Like, I'm just so grateful that we had a chance to buy. Like, you and I at 2025 were pretty clear that we weren't going to buy for a little while. But then the opportunity came up, which I'm super grateful for. And we made strategic, smart decisions into the right market at the right time again. And I think the proof will be in the pudding 7, 10, 15 years from now. Whatever it takes for people to see the value that we see, it will come. Later this year, I don't know if I'm going to buy again. Like, I'm thinking that I'd really, really, really like to get a piece of Melbourne and Mornington. Like, I think it would be so nice to have a portfolio. Like, it would have been like buying Newcastle, Wollongong, Sydney 15 years ago. You'd just be happy now. Happy's the wrong word. Like, investing doesn't make me happy.
Stoked.
You'd be absolutely blown away. You just made $3 million probably.
You'd be in a choice where you'd be at a point where you get to choose whether or not you want to work.
Yeah, and 7 years ago, like, loading up on one in Brisbane, Sunny Coast and Goldie, you'd be feeling the same way right now, which we did because we did. But I think I just have some dreams and some goals for the future that I didn't have last year, and that is way more longer term family orientated. So I started to think, well, what would, you know, keep me wanting to do this? And serving people is number one, like helping people, like the people listening to this, like get better ideas and a bit of inspiration and avoid the car crashes you and I have both been in through this stuff. But I also thought, well, what if my kids were like, what if I was 32? At 32, I had 3 kids. I had 2 businesses and I was literally having a mental breakdown. What if at 32 my dad was like, hey, you know your nice home on the beach that you paid $1.2 million for or whatever? I'm just going to pay it off for you. And I'm like, what? That hustle that I went through from 32 to 40 to try and achieve that myself, you know, what if I did that for my kids? Like, they have kids, they've gone through careers, they've gone through study, they've won, they've lost, they're like really in the thick of it. And then it's like, hey, I appreciate everything you've done. I'm going to make the next 15 years so different for you. Do what you want to do now that $1,000, $2,000, $1,500 a week isn't going to that. And I started to think bigger. So that's why I'm going out to invest again. I only have a tiny number of properties now. Like, literally, when I sell this one at Mooloolaba, I'll have 3 out of 20 that I've bought in 16 years. And so, like, I probably need 1 or 2 more to actually get the freedom that I want again. But I also got the more expensive home that I was dreaming of for the last 20 years recently, and that sucked up a lot of that other stuff. But I thought, yeah, like, it'd be fun to do that for the kids. It would be fun to be in retirement, to be like, I'm going overseas twice a year and I'm not even thinking about the money. Because the properties that I bought now in 20 years' time have gone up 200% like they did in the last 20 years, and I'm sweet.
That's it.
That gets me excited, and I just love the game of finding the needle in the haystack, bro. It's my favourite part of it.
There's always another one as well. Like,
Yeah.
that's what I always like to say. So it's like you could go out there, go and buy another one or two this year or next year in these areas. Or you could wait and, 5 years down the line, there's going to be another one.
We'll be talking about Wollongong, Newcastle and Sydney within 5 to 6 years from today, like we're
Too
talking
right.
Melbourne now.
Yeah.
Like, that's the next one after this. It's already sliding towards where I want it to be, but it's still twice up compared to Melbourne
Exactly.
right now.
It's got a little bit more flat.
Yeah, it's got some times of just like
We'll see.
inflation making incomes higher and property prices not really doing too much.
Yeah, it's awesome. But no, it's stoked to share these stories. It's really nice to be back on the property ladder and investing in a new market and figuring it all out, and super grateful to have that opportunity, but also really excited to be able to help other people be able to do the same thing as well. There's just so many good opportunities down there right now, and if people are in a position to capitalise in a safe way, that's what we're really enjoying at the moment.
G'day guys, my name's Ben and I'm the director here at Pumped on Property, and I just want to say a massive thank you for watching our content today. Now, if you're thinking about buying an investment property in the next 3 to 12 months, then the team and I would love to offer you a one-on-one strategy session. In that session, we can talk about exactly where you are right now, where you'd like to be longer term, and we can deeply educate you on the Australian market. And then you can take that information and go and absolutely smash it on your own, or potentially become one of the small number of clients that we work with each week. To book your session, all you have to do is go to www.pumpedonproperty.com and click that book your free strategy session button. But either way, we wish you all the best on your journey as an investor to financial freedom.
It was all a dream.